Ladies and gentlemen, for your safety, in accordance with the North Carolina Fire Prevention Code, the council chambers are equipped with 5 emergency exits, 2 on the upper level, 2 on the intermediate level, and 1 on the lower level. These exits are identified by the illuminated exit signs above each door. At this time, please locate the emergency exit nearest you and use this exit in the unlikely event of an emergency. The meeting will begin shortly. Please silence your cell phones. Thank you.
Call to order the July 24th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Smith for our ceremonial opening. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to adopt the agenda. If there are no amendments to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to recognitions, reports, and presentations. We have a lot of visitors this evening. First, I would like to recognize Cary from Troop 216 and George from Troop 226, scouts that are in our audience this evening earning merit badges. Would you please stand and be recognized? And our next recognition goes to participants in the Cary Public Service Academy. These students have spent time learning about local government. I had the pleasure of talking with them this afternoon. And we're honored to have them as part of our community and grateful that they could join us this evening. And I would ask that they stand and be recognized. And we'll see you tomorrow. And now I'll turn it over to our town manager for the town manager's update.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought we had a very successful special town hall meeting Tuesday night, which I believe Councilmember Bush had the original idea for. It was informative, engaging, and fun, all of the things council hoped it would be. I want to personally recognize Town Clerk Ginny Johnson for leading the large team that came together to support council's vision. As always, Ginny attended to every detail to ensure the event went off with as few hitches as possible. And we all want to thank the more than 100 citizens who attended, and for all of those who submitted questions. They, along with the answers, will be posted to the town's website by the end of the day tomorrow. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Stegall. We now move to Public Speaks Out, which is item 3 on your agenda. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum online and on the printed agenda. There were 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out: through written comments, by calling in, or by attending here in person tonight. If you're here in person and would like to speak, I'd ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are highlighted. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments and may speak on any topic as long as it's not a public hearing, and that's to your benefit. You get more time at a public hearing. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. We have a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. And when your time has expired, it will start flashing red, and that will be the point I interrupt you, again, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. I would ask that all the speakers be respectful in their comments and direct those comments to the entire council and not to an individual. And I thank everyone in our audience for understanding and respecting that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, use props, or do anything else that may distract from the meeting. So now is the time for Public Speaks Out. And first I'll call on our town clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
We had 1 written comment and 2 registered speakers. Theodore Redger expressed support for the proposed affordable senior housing at 777 Reedy Creek Road, citing the difficulty seniors on fixed incomes face in finding affordable housing in Cary. Our first registered speaker is Travis Bowles, followed by Evan Bailey.
Good evening, Town of Cary members. My name is Travis Bowles II, and I'm the grandson of George Bailey and grandnephew of Herbert Bailey. On behalf of the Bailey family and the Bailey Legacy Trust, I come before you to implore you to approve the upcoming rezoning request for 777 Vermel Place. Why have I chosen to speak tonight? Vermel Evans was my great-grandmother. I was born here in Cary, and in just a few weeks, I will begin my senior year at Cary High School. My family's ties to Cary run deep and long when my ancestor Morris Evans, an indentured slave in 1654, came to America. I'm sure he could never imagine how extensive his footprint would have, especially here in Cary. I'm a direct descendant of his lineage, and as I prepare for the world beyond high school, I pause to think about what my granddad and my uncle are doing, building a lasting legacy here in Cary. What is a legacy anyway? Google says it's the long-lasting impact of particular events or actions. How often can one or even two people leave a legacy? For my family, their legacy involves building homes for families for over 3 decades. My granddad, which I call Pop-Pop, has built over 120 homes, 50 here in Cary, and 9 subdivisions. That's a legacy, but he's not done. The 777 Vermel Place is a culminating career project to create 90 single-family affordable units right here in Cary. I've been fortunate enough that my parents created a home for me in Cary, which many others struggle to find adequate housing. I've learned that Cary is the 3rd largest city in the Triangle, and recent census data reports that the city's population grows almost 1% annually. With almost 200,000 people in Cary, that's on average 20,000 people coming every year. And Zillow says that the median home price is over $580,000. Do you think that the 20,000 people coming here every year can afford it? Inevitably, the lowest earning people will struggle the most. Last month, the Wall Street Journal had a podcast about confronting the affordable housing crisis. My mom and I talked about this over dinner, and she explained that the podcast reported there were 3 main reasons for this crisis. 1 was the cost of land and construction, 2 was the lack of investment in affordable housing, and 3, the lack of support for families. And I asked myself, is this true for Cary? Tonight, this council has a chance to stand up to this crisis. You can choose to invest in this future of Cary right now. I was just in Vacation Bible School last week, and I'm reminded of the Bible verse that speaks to this very thing. In Matthew 25:40, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. As I prepare to enter the workforce soon enough, I pray that I'll be able to live in this beautiful community I call home. Without affordable housing options, this is less likely to be an option. My mom tells me to prepare to go make my mark on the world. In your elected roles, you get a chance to act and make your mark and legacy for years to come. Cary needs this affordable housing project, and with your support, we can make this happen. In closing, as the council considers my pop-ups request in this coming months, please remember you have a chance to be part of something that will benefit generations to come. Just like my family, build something that helps the least of our brothers and sisters. My pop-ups legacy is a legacy we can and should support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles.
Our next speaker is Evan Bailey.
Good evening. My name is Evan Patterson Bailey. I'm 15 years old, a rising sophomore at the Wake Young Men's Leadership Academy of Raleigh, and I've lived in Cary, North Carolina for most of my life. My grandfather, Herbert Bailey, and my uncle, George Bailey, are the owners of 25 REZ 777 Vermel Place, the affordable housing proposal currently before this council. Vermel Evans, whom the project is named after, was my great-grandmother. I often wonder what she would say about all this. Back in the 1930s, she and my great-grandfather, Clyde Albert Evans Sr., bought 100 acres of land just a few minutes from here for $10 an acre. Evans Road, which still runs through what was once their farm, bears their name today. That land became a community and, for my family, a legacy. My grandfather has always taught me the importance of family, of knowing where you come from, of being your best self, and of giving back. He's also a pipeline contractor, and I can't tell you how many times he's said to me, Evan, you can't get a glass of water in Cary, Morrisville, Raleigh, Wake Forest, or even Mabane without it going through a pipe I later touched. His company, Bailey Contracting, helped build the water systems for many of the towns in this area. That simple idea that a glass of water can connect so many of us really stuck with me. And now our hope is that 25 REZ 777 Vermel Place can be another kind of connector, a place that brings people together and helps them stay in the communities they love. I've seen families on my street and in my neighborhood have to move further and further out because they can't afford to stay. Some of them are elderly and have spent their whole lives building something here, and now they're being priced out. That's hard to watch, and it doesn't feel fair. I'm only 15, and my future is still wide open, but Cary is my home, and it scares me to think that one day I might not be able to afford to live where I grew up. My family has always tried to be good neighbors, responsible citizens, and good stewards of the land in this community. We don't want Vermeil Place to cause harm or bring anything negative. In fact, we believe it could make things better, together. We're opening to working with the community, the council, and with anyone who wants to help it shape it into something great. And honestly, from the perspective of someone my age, it's upsetting to hear people say that affordable equals unsafe or unwanted. I hear that a lot, and it just doesn't make sense. I see bad things happening every day, some from people in power and with lots of money. So to say affordable housing equals crime, it's not true and it's not fair. My family is in this for the long haul, and I believe we can all do better for each other and for the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
No additional registered speakers.
If you're in the audience and would like to speak on any topic, that's not a public hearing, now's your opportunity.
Hi, my name is Rosalind Elwood. I live at 412 Melody Lane. I could not attend last month's rezoning meeting, the Calyx rezoning 25-REZ03. I watched the video and I was dismayed to realize that the Calyx representative didn't even bring up our major concerns about our wells, which we have reiterated multiple times at 2 meetings in writing and on the phone. It wasn't even discussed as an issue. And if one of my neighbors, Kurt Romano, had not been able to come, you wouldn't have known how serious this issue will impact us. We're asking for a minimum of 100 feet and as much of that as we can get in an undisturbed buffer. This property lies directly on the property line, the residence on the north side of Melody Lane. The entire street, my house was built in 1962. I've been there 45 years. I have neighbors that are in their 80s and even in their 90s that aren't able to come to these meetings or say much, and I'm here to defend them and the other residents that aren't able to come for whatever reason. Many of the wells, in fact, I think almost all of the wells on the north side of Melody Lane that back up to this property line are only 10 feet from the property line. And that's because that's what Wake County, those were the regulations in those days. I know that Calyx they can build up to 50 feet from the line. We have asked repeatedly for 100 feet for protection for the wells and also privacy. The reason it's important is we're sitting on the granite ridge, the same granite ridge that is being mined at the rock quarry at the end of Harrison next to Umstead State Park. Every time they dynamite, we can feel it. I can feel my house shaking. And we're sitting on this rock, which is fractured and cracked, and all of our wells are bored into these various cracks. And if that is fractured further in any way, it will impact our wells, and they're all old. Mine, I think, is the only one that's been re-drilled 5 years ago, but every other well on the street was drilled in the 60s, and I think almost all of them are below grade, so they're not raised, which means they're exposed to E. coli and runoff. And then there's the septic fields. I would like to share an experience that I went through 5 years ago with the Reedy Creek Road widening project. My home is one house away from the intersection
Ms.
of...
Elwood, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you, but your time has expired.
Oh.
If you have that written, I would love to read that.
Okay.
And you can give it to the clerk, and she'll make sure we
My
get a
time's
copy.
up, I didn't even notice, sorry.
You can come back at the next meeting.
I will.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else to speak at Public Speaks Out?
My name is Louise Romanoff, and I am mother of Kurt Romanoff, who spoke with you last time. I live at 1010 Reedy Creek Road. Kurt, as you might remember, lives at 1001 Reedy Creek, which is across the street from my mailbox. I am very concerned about the property, not that there shouldn't be an assisted living facility there, but that I think that I have concerns and other people have concerns. One is that they're talking about a one-story building. Now, if you look at the topography of that land, there's a very steep decline down to North Harrison. And I suggested that they consider making their footprint a little bit smaller and putting a lot of their utility facilities underneath instead of having to do a lot of fill. And they said, well, we would think about that. And then I called them up later and I said, have you thought about that? And they said, no, we're doing one story. So I feel as if they're not listening. My other concern is that there's this discussion of a greenway that will go through that property. If they really only do a 50-foot buffer and they put a greenway through that buffer, that will really destroy the privacy of the people on the north side of Melody Lane. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter. She has toys out there. She has, a playhouse and stuff like that. I am anxious that people who could be on that greenway would have very clear visibility to her and her friends as they play. I would really like to see a much denser buffer, perhaps even with a fence, I don't know, and the greenway put far enough away from those properties that is not going to be an issue, that she can feel, that her parents can feel safe with her playing outside while there are people on that greenway. My other concern, which Ms. Elwood referred to, is the wells. And she's right, their well is 10 feet from the property line. And if they build as close as they're talking about, which is 50 feet from the property line. Now, that's the building. They're also talking about putting in...
Ms. Romanoff, I'm sorry to have to interrupt you.
It didn't show a sum up. It didn't give me...
It doesn't start until you start speaking.
No, I had the talk, then it went, I was watching for the yellow light. Yellow light was there for about 2 seconds, but okay. Thank you.
I invite you back next time, please. Anyone else to speak at Public Speaks Out? Seeing no one, will close Public Speaks Out. We're now at item 4 on the agenda. It's our consent agenda. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. On the consent agenda, we have 24A04 Yates Store Road Assemblage, 24A03 Pittard Sears Road Annexation, 24A04 1412 White Oak Church Road Annexation. Call for public hearing for extension of the 2019 bond orders, adjustment to the adopted meeting schedule. Would council like any of these items pulled for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us into public hearings, which is item 5 on your agenda. Same rules apply for public hearings that apply for Public Speaks Out, with one exception. Speakers now have 5 minutes each for their comments. Our first and only public hearing is the local landmark designation public hearing. Principal Planner Rachel Smith will present the item, and council may take action. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Council. I am pleased to present for your consideration an ordinance that would designate the Levy and Clarence Braswell House at 309 Northwest Street as a Cary Local Historic Landmark. Following the public hearing, council may choose to vote on the designation ordinance. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the owner, Robin Kimball, for her stewardship of the property over the last 3 decades, as well as her efforts to designate the property and her commitment to the continued preservation of her home. These efforts are complemented by the work of the Historic Preservation Commission, HPC, on the numerous steps to get to this point in the designation process. Landmarking a property is no small task, as evidenced by the procedural steps we will walk through in a moment. The Braswell House is located at the southwest corner of Wood Street and Northwest Street at the northwest part of downtown Cary, between the Norfolk Southern and CSX Railroad corridors. It is just to the west of the future downtown Cary multimodal transit facility site. The property is near, but not included, within the boundary of the National Register of Historic Places Cary Downtown Historic District. The National Register of Historic Places is a federal program that bestows recognition to nationally recognized landmarks and districts and is separate from Cary's local historic landmark program. The first part of my presentation will cover Cary's current inventory of local historic landmarks and what the program means to the town and for property owners who partner in preservation. The second part will focus on the Braswell House and how its designation adds to the existing inventory. Cary's landmark program is rooted in the 2010 Historic Preservation Master Plan, incorporated into the Imagine Cary Community Plan, which promotes identifying eligible landmarks to help preserve the town's history and character. In 2011, the town began compiling a list of priority properties, including the Braswell House. These properties are surveyed, and when significant historic value is found, the HPC works with interested property owners through the designation process. To date, 12 properties have been designated, half owned by the town and half privately held. To help us orient ourselves to the town-owned properties, I have placed a purple pin on Town Hall. The town-owned landmarks include 2 of 3 recognized cemeteries, the Hillcrest and White Plains cemeteries. Other town-owned properties include the Nancy Jones House, Page Walker Hotel, Cary Art Center, and Sam's Jones House. Of these, the Nancy Jones House was the most recently designated property in 2023, and the Page Walker was the first designated property in 1994. The remaining 6 properties are privately owned, including the Carpenter Supply Store, John and Henry Sears House, First Christian Church Cemetery, Guess White Ogle House, Dr. John Pullen Hunter House, and Farmers Cooperative and Meeting Hall. Notable on this list is the Sears House, which is the only landmark property which remains in use as a private residence, and the Pullen Hunter House, which is the only craftsman-style landmark property. If the Braswell House is designated as the 13th local landmark, it would be the second privately owned and lived-in home, and the second craftsman-style property in the inventory. Becoming a landmark is a very special honor. A local historic landmark is a property with architectural, historical, or cultural significance that retains strong historic integrity. Landmarks are recommended by the HPC and are designated by the Cary Town Council. Designation recognizes a property's value to the community and allows for a 50% property tax deferral for the property owner, so long as the property remains compliant with the landmark designation ordinance and program requirements. This tax deferral is authorized by state law, with more details in the staff report. Once a property is designated as a landmark, owners must apply for and receive a special permit called a Certificate of Appropriateness, or COA, before making a repair or replacement when there is a change in the design, materials, or general appearance to the exterior of the building or site. Minor COAs are reviewed by staff, and major COAs are reviewed by the HPC at a quasi-judicial public hearing. All COAs are reviewed against Cary's historic design guidelines. Tonight, we are on the 4th step of the local historic landmark designation process, the Town Council public hearing. The first step, as described in more detail in your staff report, included research by the HPC and then hiring a preservation consultant to prepare the landmark designation application report, which was completed in the fall of 2024. In accordance with state law and Cary's LDO, the State Historic Preservation Office reviewed and commented upon the designation report. The HPC held their public hearing in June, where they voted unanimously to recommend designation of the property. The HPC's recommendation is grounded in the LDO, which requires that a landmark property have special significance in terms of its historical, prehistoric, architectural, or cultural importance, and to possess integrity of design, setting, workmanship, feeling, and/or association. The required landmark designation application report sets forth what is known about the property and explains its significance and integrity. The report provides evidence as to why the decision to landmark the property is appropriate and defensible. To provide background on the Braswell House, we go back in time a century. The Braswell House was built around 1925 on Lot 29 of the Dixon subdivision, platted in 1921. In the 1920s, Cary was a small town of about 700 people. The Seaboard Airline and the Southern Railroad were vital to its economy, moving goods like tobacco and lumber and connecting Cary to larger markets. As the railroad spurred growth, new neighborhoods emerged near the tracks, and families built modest homes in popular styles like the Craftsman Bungalow, valued for their quality, simplicity, and modern appeal. This era marked Cary's transformation from rural crossroads to suburban community. The homes from this time reflect the town's early identity and the beginnings of the vibrant, connected Cary that we know today. Craftsman bungalows, a popular home style from the early 20th century, are characterized by a low-pitched gable roof, wide eaves, and a welcoming front porch. They also often feature exposed rafters, simple decorative beams, and a mix of materials like brick, shingles, and siding. The style incorporates clean lines and natural materials. The Braswell House retains most of its original character-defining features, including a distinctive asymmetrical front facade with nested gables. Craftsman-style details such as shake siding, battered porch posts on brick piers, exposed rafter tails, and weatherboard siding are intact. Mature trees in the original setting strengthen its integrity of location and feeling. As one of the few early 20th century homes still standing, it offers valuable insight into Cary's 1920s architecture and neighborhood character. This information is captured in the significant statement from the designation report, which describes the property's distinctive characteristics and excellent overall integrity. The HPC held their public hearing on June 11th. The only written comment came from the owner, Robin Kimball, in support of the nomination, and there were 3 speakers. Comments were in support of the nomination, with questions regarding the minimum age of a property to be nominated, if the interior was included in the designation, and whether the designation would apply to or impact neighboring property owners. In response, 50 years is the minimum age, interior elements are not commonly included, and the local historic landmark designation only applies to the subject property and not neighboring properties. After emphasizing their support for the complementary addition of the Braswell House to the existing inventory of properties, the HPC voted 8-0 to recommend that Cary designate the property as a Cary local historic landmark. The proposed landmark ordinance includes all exterior design elements, including the form, features, and materials of the building. The boundary includes the quarter-acre site. Notice of the public hearing was mailed to property owners within 800 feet of the proposed landmark property. Notice was also published on the town's website and posted on the subject property. This includes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. So now is the time for the public hearing for the local landmark designation. And I'll first turn it over to the town clerk for any written comments or call on any registered speakers.
No written comments, and we had one registered speaker, Michael of the Friends of Paige Walker.
Good evening. I am Michael Rubis, President of the Friends of the Page Walker, Cary's Historical Society. On 11 June of this year, the Historic Preservation Commission voted unanimously to recommend to Council that the Levy and Clarence Braswell House be granted local landmark status. The Levy and Clarence Braswell House is a classic example of the craftsman bungalow and architectural style that was very popular in the first part of the 20th century. Many of those styles of houses in the downtown Cary area have undergone significant modifications and alterations over the years. Examples of early 20th century craftsman-style bungalows that have escaped extensive modifications like the Braswell House are not common. This makes it a significant example of that style of house. The Friends of the Page Walker applaud the owners for being good stewards of the house and are pleased that they are seeking local landmark status. Local landmark status is the most significant local designation for historic properties. As such, the Friends of the Page Walker would like it to be known that they are in complete agreement with the Historic Preservation Commission and their recommendation to Council in favor of granting local landmark status to the Levy and Clarence Braswell House. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your continuing support in preserving Cary's historic structures.
Thank you.
That's all.
If you're here and would like to speak at this public hearing, now's your opportunity. Any other speakers for this public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, open it up to council members for questions, comments, or a motion, if you're ready for that.
Looking for what to say. Make a motion to approve the HPC recommendation for the designation for the Braswell House.
Second. And motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Smith. We have no discussion items, and we have no closed session. That concludes our agenda, so meeting is adjourned.
Okay. Yay.
I tell you.
Mhm.